So think about the very first sound you hear every single morning. I mean, for most of human history, it was just the sun coming up or maybe roosters or, the natural sounds of a village.
Right, very peaceful.
Exactly. But today, it is this digital blaring siren from a smartphone. And it just jolts our nervous system from a state of total rest into a state of instant panic.
It really does.
And then the very next thing we do is try to articulate our existence in English to the people around us. We are Linda and John.
Yes, we are. And we are so thrilled to welcome you to the Learn English at Ease podcast.
Yeah.
This is the place where we don't just teach you vocabulary. We really unpack the human experiences behind the words.
Yeah, whether you are just starting your English journey or maybe you are an advanced speaker navigating the corporate world, today's deep dive is going to fundamentally change how you talk about your daily routine.
Absolutely, because the modern workday shapes not just our schedules, but our psychology, our stress levels, and entirely new vocabularies that didn't even exist, a century ago.
Oh, for sure. But hey, before we dive into the details, we have a small favor to ask.
We do.
If you want to support us and keep improving your English every week, please hit that subscribe button right now. It really helps our channel grow, it costs you absolutely nothing, and it ensures we can keep bringing you these fun deep dives into real conversational English.
Please do hit that button. It means the world to us. And speaking of the modern workday, looking at your posture right now, someone appears to be recovering from a rather intense 24 hours.
Oh, you can tell.
I mean, were you caught in the corporate machine yesterday? Because I know my day stretched well past sunset.
Oh my goodness, yes. My shoes practically left friction burns on the carpet yesterday.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I was in a state of constant motion from the second I walked in.
Right.
I mean, by the time I sat down to actually review my own tasks, the cleaning staff was already emptying the trash cans for the night.
Oh, wow, that is late.
It felt less like a day of productivity and more like, well, an exercise in crisis management. Who actually had the busier day, you or me?
Oh, I think it is a tie. But whether your day involves running around like crazy or just quietly organizing spreadsheets, the origin point of every single workday is identical.
The alarm clock.
Yes, the alarm clock. And that creates the first great divide of the human species.
It really does. And this isn't just about preference, right? We are talking about biological chronotypes here.
Exactly. We always categorize people as either the classic morning person or the night owl.
Right, so the morning person naturally wakes up before the sun. Maybe their alarm goes off at 6 a.m. and they are, I don't know how, genuinely cheerful.
It is baffling to me. But evolutionary biologists actually have a theory about this divide.
Oh, really? What is it?
They suggest that early human tribes needed people awake at different times to keep watch for predators.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. So the morning people were the early guards, and the night owls took the late shift. So if you struggle to wake up for an 8 silo a.m. meeting, well, it is not a moral failure or a lack of discipline. You are biologically programmed to be guarding the cave at 2:00 a.m.
I am definitely using that as an excuse at my next performance review. I am just guarding the cave.
It is a solid defense. But for the night owls, who are dragging themselves out of bed at 7:30 a.m. for a 9:00 a.m. start, they need a linguistic shield.
Yes, they do. And the most common phrase you will hear in an office before 10 till a.m. is, well, I'm not a morning person.
That phrase is so crucial for English learners to know. It carries a ton of cultural weight.
How so?
It basically operates as a universal apology for grogginess. And grogginess is a very specific state. It is not just being tired.
Right. It is more like a cognitive sluggishness. You have brain fog.
Exactly. If you accidentally pour orange juice into your cereal bowl in the office kitchen, you just smile, point to your head, and say, I'm not a morning person.
And it immediately disarms any judgment. It tells your colleagues that your executive function hasn't booted up yet.
It sets the expectation that you are not liable for anything you say or do until the caffeine hits your bloodstream.
Yeah, that is so true. And part of that night owl experience is the psychological warfare of the snooze button.
Oh, the snooze button. A dangerous
It
game.
really is. You have the people who will hit that button and linger in bed for 10 extra minutes, and then you have the purists who claim you must leap out of bed the second the alarm rings.
I am one of those purists.
See, I have to argue for the snooze button. Those 10 minutes where you are semi-conscious, wrapped in a blanket, fully aware that you don't have to face reality quite yet. I mean, it is the most comforting part of the day.
I understand the psychological appeal, I really do. But the physiological reality of the snooze button is disastrous.
Disastrous. That is a strong word.
Well, it ties into sleep inertia. When you first wake up, your brain is clearing out sleep-inducing chemicals. But if you hit snooze and fall back asleep for just 9 or 10 minutes, your brain mistakenly thinks you are starting a brand new sleep cycle.
Oh, I see. So it plunges you back into deep sleep.
Exactly. So when the alarm goes off the second time, you are interrupting a deep sleep phase.
Which is why you feel so terrible.
Right. That is why you feel significantly more disoriented and groggy after hitting snooze than you did when the alarm first went off.
So it is basically a biological trap disguised as comfort.
Yes. The only way to win is to stand up immediately. It forces your circulatory system to engage.
Okay, I hear the biology, but breaking that habit requires immense willpower. Let's assume you've survived the alarm, though.
Barely.
Right. The second divide is the morning prep routine, which really sets the momentum for the entire day.
Oh, absolutely. And there is the highly idealized health-conscious route.
Yes, this is the person who drinks a full glass of room temperature water to rehydrate, engages in 5 minutes of dynamic stretching to activate their muscles, and prepares a beautifully balanced breakfast.
Like oatmeal with fresh berries or eggs on whole grain toast.
Exactly. Contrast that with the rushed route, which is the chaotic reality for, well, the vast majority of the modern workforce.
That routine consists of stumbling toward the coffee machine, consuming a cup of black coffee, grabbing a bruised banana, and sprinting out the door.
That is so accurate. The human brain is so reliant on momentum that attempting to switch from the rushed route to the health-conscious route usually results in pure comedy.
Oh, I can imagine.
Just picture it. Imagine a hardcore, coffee-only commuter suddenly trying to adopt a 5-minute mindful stretching routine because they read an article about morning productivity.
This is a recipe for disaster.
It is. They are standing in the middle of their living room at 6:45 a.m., holding a heavy ceramic mug of dark roast coffee in one hand, trying to touch their toes with the other.
Oh, no.
Their hamstrings haven't been stretched since high school, they're cursing under their breath, and they end up spilling hot coffee all over the rug.
Yeah, the stress of trying to be mindful would probably send their cortisol levels through the roof. It completely defeats the purpose.
Exactly. We cling to these rush routines because they require zero decision-making.
Which brings us to a phrase that has been drilled into English speakers since childhood. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
We hear it constantly, but where does that phrase actually come from? It sounds like ancient medical wisdom, but I've read it was essentially a marketing campaign.
It was entirely a marketing campaign.
Wait, really?
Yeah. In the early 20th century, companies that manufactured breakfast cereals needed a way to convince the public to buy boxed cereal instead of just eating, whatever was left over from dinner.
So they just invented the concept that it was medically necessary.
They popularized the idea that a heavy, carbohydrate-rich breakfast was required for energy. But today, a lot of nutritionists argue the exact opposite.
Because of office jobs.
Right. If you sit at a desk under fluorescent lights all day, eating a massive meal at 7:30 a.m. might just induce an insulin spike and make you lethargic by 10:0 a.m.
Linguistically, though, it remains a fantastic cultural touchstone for English learners.
How would they use it naturally?
Well, if a colleague sees you eating a single piece of toast and asks, "Is that all you're having?" You can reply, "Well, they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but they never said it had to be large."
Oh, that is brilliant. It demonstrates that you understand the cultural idiom while actively subverting it.
Exactly. It shows true fluency. So, the morning routine is finished. You're either stretched and nourished or heavily caffeinated and slightly panicked.
Usually the latter.
Now comes the liminal space between your private life and your professional life.
Yeah.
The commute.
Yes. Let's focus on that word. Commute. It functions as both a noun and a verb, which is super useful.
Could you give us an example?
Sure. You can say it as a noun like, my commute is terrible today, or as a verb, I commute to the city. It represents the regular journey between home and work.
And historically speaking, the concept of a commute is incredibly recent. For centuries, humans lived exactly where they worked, on a farm, above their shop, or in a small village.
Right. Traveling an hour just to sit at a desk is a modern invention, and our brains are still trying to adapt to the stress of it.
Which brings up the great debate of modern infrastructure, driving versus public transit.
Let's analyze the psychology of both. Suppose driving takes about 25 minutes in normal conditions, while taking the subway takes 20.
The trade-offs are immense. With the subway, the primary advantage is passive transport.
Meaning you don't have to do the work.
Exactly. You relinquish control to the train conductor. You don't have to navigate. You don't have to find parking. And you can reclaim that time to read, listen to a podcast, or just close your eyes.
But you surrender your personal space. The subway during peak hours is a violation of natural human boundaries.
That is one way to put it.
It is true. You are pressed shoulder to shoulder with strangers, breathing recycled air, dealing with unpredictable noise.
True. But driving, conversely, offers an illusion of absolute control. Your car is like a mobile living room.
A mobile living room. I like that.
Yeah, you control the temperature, the audio environment, the seating position. It is a private sanctuary.
An illusion of control is the perfect way to phrase it, though, because the moment you merge onto a congested highway, you are entirely at the mercy of urban planning bottlenecks and the erratic decisions of thousands of other drivers.
Though, tell me about it. And this congestion creates a phenomenon we call rush hour.
Yes, rush hour. Let's look at the pronunciation here, because it really trips up a lot of learners.
It does. Rush hour. The H in hour is entirely silent.
Right, so we pronounce it exactly like the possessive pronoun O-U-R, hour. It is never hour, rush hour.
And rush hour typically occurs between 8 a.m. and 9:00 a.m., and again between 5:00 p.m. and 6:40 p.m.
The irony of the phrase is that no one is actually rushing anywhere. Everyone is completely stationary.
Right, you're just sitting there.
It's caused by the synchronization of the 9-to-5 workday. Because society demands that everyone arrive at their desks at the exact same moment, the infrastructure just physically collapses under the volume.
It is so wild when you think about it. For our listeners, you can use it in a variety of contexts, like, I try to avoid driving during rush hour, or I left early to beat rush hour.
Or I got stuck in the middle of evening rush hour.
Exactly. So knowing the stress of both methods, let me pose a hypothetical question to you.
Oh boy, I am ready.
If you had to choose between standing on a crowded, swaying subway car for a full hour, holding onto a metal pole with no seat, or sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic in your own vehicle for an hour, barely moving above 5 miles per hour, which is better for your mental health?
Oh, that is a harsh choice. I would have to choose the car, despite the traffic.
Really?
Yeah. The claustrophobia of a packed train, the sensory overload of other people's conversations, the lack of personal space, it depletes my social battery before I even arrive at the office. I need that morning isolation.
But the traffic doesn't drive you crazy.
In a car, even if I'm frustrated by the brake lights, I am physically insulated. I can play loud music to vent the frustration. What is your strategy?
See, I take the completely opposite view. Traffic induces a very specific type of existential dread for me. Existential dread? It does. Sitting in a car, watching the minutes tick away, feeling completely trapped by a wall of metal. It raises my blood pressure.
But the subway is so crowded.
On a subway, even if it is incredibly crowded, the vehicle is in motion. There is forward progress. I can put on noise-canceling headphones, stare at the floor, and mentally detach from the physical space.
Wow. It really highlights how different people process environmental stress.
It really does. But eventually the commute ends. You walk through the revolving doors, ride the elevator up, and you finally hit the desk.
And what is the very first thing that greets you?
The digital avalanche, the inbox.
No, the inbox.
You wake up your computer monitor, and there it is, a bold number indicating you have 20 or 30 new emails waiting for you.
The psychology behind email is fascinating because it relies on variable reward schedules, very similar to a slot machine.
A slot machine. How so?
Well, every time you open your inbox, you don't know if you're going to get a mundane company newsletter, a massive new project, or an angry complaint from a client. That unpredictability spikes your dopamine and your anxiety simultaneously.
That is so true. It takes a solid 30 minutes just to perform triage.
Triage is a great medical term.
It is. And it applies perfectly to the corporate inbox. It means deciding what is bleeding and needs immediate attention and what can be ignored for now.
Exactly. And once the inbox is contained, you check your calendar. Workplace schedules dictate the entire rhythm of your day. You have light days, perhaps Tuesdays or Thursdays, characterized by maybe 1 or 2 meetings.
And then you have the heavy days, usually Mondays or Wednesdays.
Right. And the heavy days are defined by meetings. And not all meetings carry the same psychological weight.
Oh, definitely not. An internal team meeting is often collaborative and relatively relaxed.
A meeting with your direct manager requires a bit more vigilance.
But client meetings, those trigger a completely different biological response. When you face a client, you are dealing with outgroup dynamics.
You are no longer just an employee. You are the physical embodiment of your company.
Exactly. You have to be hyper-articulate, politically careful, and ready to defend your work against criticism. It is incredibly stressful.
That performance anxiety is exhausting, and it's compounded when these meetings are scheduled back-to-back.
Back-to-back. Let's pause on that phrase. This is a crucial hyphenated phrase for any professional environment.
It really is. If you say, I have back-to-back meetings today, it implies 0 transition time. Meeting A concludes at 10:59 a.m., and meeting B commences at 11:00 a.m.
It completely ignores the basic biological needs of the human body. Back-to-back means no time to process the information from the first meeting, no time to get a glass of water, no time to look out a window to rest your eyes.
You are just pivoting from one intense social performance directly into another.
And another specific meeting structure is the one-on-one.
Right, the one-on-one.
This isn't just a meeting with one other person. In corporate English, a one-on-one specifically refers to a recurring private check-in between an employee and their direct supervisor.
Yes. It's a space for feedback, career development, and aligning on goals. You might hear someone say, I need to prep my metrics for my one-on-one this afternoon.
Now, contrast the chaos of back-to-back meetings with the alternative, a day of solitary focused work.
The quiet days.
A day dedicated entirely to looking at spreadsheets, writing reports, and analyzing data. And I want to pause on that specific word, analyze.
This is a great point for English learners. The shift between the verb and the noun form of this concept is one of the most common pronunciation hurdles.
It requires a complete remapping of the syllables.
Let's look at the verb first. Analyze. The stress falls heavily on the first syllable. Analyze.
It sounds almost like the name Anna. I need to analyze this market trend.
But when we move to the noun form, analysis, the stress shifts backward.
Right, it moves to the second syllable,
Aye.
A-N-A-L-E. The first A becomes very soft, almost a quick breath, and the power hits the N-A-L.
I have finished my analysis. Master that stress shift, and your spoken English instantly sounds more authoritative.
Absolutely. But going back to that morning inbox routine, I have to interrupt you and challenge you on a productivity strategy.
Okay, challenge accepted. What is it?
When you are triaging those 30 morning emails,
Oh.
do you reply to every single one? Like every single email?
That is a great question, and the answer is no. I actively advocate against replying to every email.
Thank goodness, because I think the compulsion to reply to everything is a trap that destroys productivity.
It really is. Consider the informational email. Someone sends a message to 5 people just saying, the new software update is live.
Right. And if you reply with, thanks, got it, you have just sent a notification to 5 different people, interrupting their workflow.
And then someone else might reply, great, thanks. And suddenly you have an email chain of pure noise.
It's the digital equivalent of everyone in a room shouting, I heard you, over and over again.
That is a hilarious image, but so accurate. Silence in a professional context can be incredibly strategic. If an email does not explicitly ask a question or require your authorization, ignoring it or archiving it without a response is actually a form of professional courtesy. You're protecting your colleagues' attention spans as well as your own.
That is such a smart way to frame it. You have to ruthlessly protect your time because by the time 12:40 p.m. rolls around, the mental fatigue from all those emails, the back-to-back meetings, and the commute has compounded.
Your cognitive fuel tank is totally empty.
Which brings us to the physiological reset of the day, midday fuel.
The lunch break. This is where the biological reality of the human body clashes with the demands of the modern workplace.
Usually taking lunch around 12:00 or 1:00 p.m., right?
Exactly. Around 1:00 p.m., your circadian rhythm naturally dips, and if you've been doing complex problem solving all morning, your brain has depleted its glucose reserves.
You need food, but more importantly, you need a cognitive break.
Right. The struggle is whether you allow yourself a full hour to decompress, or if the pressure of the workload forces you to cut it down to a frantic 30 minutes.
And the location of the lunch is a major cultural indicator.
Oh, absolutely.
There is the tragic phenomenon of eating at your desk. You eat a sandwich with one hand while continuing to scroll through spreadsheets with the other.
Which prevents any actual mental recovery.
Exactly. But then there's the office break room. And the break room is a fascinating sociological environment.
It really is the modern equivalent of the village water cooler. This is the designated space containing a refrigerator, a microwave, and usually a few tables.
What makes the break room so vital is that it strips away the immediate hierarchy.
That is a great point. When you are in the break room waiting for the microwave, you are just a human being needing food, whether you are an intern or a senior director.
It facilitates cross-departmental bonds that would never form in a formal meeting.
And it is populated by your colleagues. Let's actually distinguish between colleague and coworker, because learners often wonder which word to use.
That is the great distinction to make. So coworker is highly literal. It refers to proximity.
Right. Anyone who works in the same building or company is a coworker.
But colleague carries slightly more prestige. It implies a shared profession, a shared expertise, or an equal status.
So you might complain about a coworker who leaves a mess in the kitchen, but you collaborate on a complex project with a colleague.
Exactly. And speaking of messes in the kitchen, the break room is also a theater of passive-aggressive drama.
Oh, the drama. There is an unspoken etiquette.
Leaving a dirty container in the sink, or worse, microwaving something incredibly pungent like leftover fish, is viewed as a severe breach of the social contract.
It alters the air quality of the entire floor for hours.
It really does, which is why many people opt to just buy lunch or bring cold lunches.
Let's examine the menu. There is a massive divide between the people who purchase lunch daily, maybe going out to a restaurant or a shop, and those who bring a home-cooked meal.
I have to say, I find the classic daily turkey, cheese, lettuce, and tomato sandwich from a nearby shop to be deeply uninspiring.
Really, you don't like a classic turkey sandwich.
I mean, it provides calories, yes, but it provides zero culinary joy. It feels like fueling a machine rather than feeding a human.
See, I will defend the strategic value of the simple sandwich.
Fend away.
When you are deeply immersed in complex workflows, the last thing you want is a heavy, elaborate meal, like a big bowl of pasta, that requires a knife and fork, creates a mess on your desk, and diverts all your body's energy toward digestion.
I suppose that is true.
A sandwich is efficient. It is portable. It limits decision fatigue.
But the financial cost, buying that sandwich every single day is staggering.
That is fair.
The counter strategy to this for bringing home-cooked meals like rice, vegetables, and chicken is a concept native speakers call batch cooking, or cooking in batches.
This is a fantastic phrasal concept for learners.
To cook in batches means dedicating a specific block of time, typically on a Sunday afternoon, to cook a massive amount of food simultaneously.
You aren't just cooking a meal for tonight, you are manufacturing inventory for the week.
Right. You roast a large pan of vegetables, cook a huge pot of rice, and grill several chicken breasts. Then you portion everything out into 5 separate containers.
It is the ultimate life hack for the modern worker. It saves so much money and it is usually much healthier.
And when Wednesday morning arrives and you are rushing out the door because you hit the snooze button too many times, you don't have to think about lunch.
You just grab a container from the fridge. It removes one massive decision from your day.
Which preserves your cognitive energy for actual work.
But regardless of what you consume, the efficient turkey sandwich or the batch-cooked rice, the aftermath of lunch introduces the most treacherous phase of the workday.
Ah, yes. The food coma is setting in.
Your digestive system kicks into high gear, drawing blood away from your brain. This coincides with a natural drop in your core body temperature.
And the result is a physiological phenomenon universally known as the afternoon slump.
The afternoon slump, it usually hits between 2:00 p.m. and 3:00 p.m.
It is a wall of exhaustion. Your eyelids feel heavy, your motivation evaporates, and staring at a computer screen feels physically painful.
There are 2 distinct ways people try to combat this slump.
The first is to chain yourself to the desk, open a new browser tab, and try to force productivity through sheer willpower.
Usually by consuming a 3rd cup of coffee.
Exactly. But that brute force method almost always results in highly inefficient, error-prone work.
The scientifically superior method is to step away from the desk entirely.
Like taking a quick 5 to 10 minute walk outside if the weather's nice.
Right. It exposes your retinas to natural sunlight, which suppresses melatonin production, and the physical movement gets your blood circulating again.
It acts as a complete system reboot to refresh and get your energy back.
And it's vital to reboot because, ironically, the afternoon is usually when the most intensive solitary production actually has to occur.
Right. The morning is lost to communication, the endless emails and meetings. The afternoon is when you actually have to write the proposals, update the spreadsheets, or finalize the presentations.
This requires a state of deep work. You have to be truly focused.
Focused. Let's define what that means in this context.
To be focused means to have 0 distractions. You are giving all your cognitive power to a single task.
And looming over all of this focused work is the constant structural pressure of deadlines, the stress of things being due soon.
The word deadline has a rather grim etymology, actually.
Oh, it really does. I believe it actually originated during the American Civil War in military prisons.
Yes. They would draw a physical line in the dirt around the prisoners. If a prisoner crossed that line, they would be shot. It was literally the deadline.
Wow. And over time, it evolved into a metaphorical boundary for newspaper publishing, like the absolute final moment a story could be submitted before the printing presses started rolling.
And today, in an English-speaking corporate context, a deadline is the agreed-upon time and date by which a task must be completed.
And we should note, missing a deadline in an English-speaking workplace is not treated as a minor inconvenience.
No, it is often viewed as a serious breach of professional trust. It signals that you cannot manage your workload or respect other people's dependencies on your output.
So to meet those deadlines, You have to be fiercely focused. But maintaining focus in a modern open-plan office is nearly impossible.
It is so hard.
Just as you get into a state of flow, a colleague might wander over to your desk wanting to chat about their weekend.
Oh, that is the worst timing.
You face a terrible dilemma. Do you engage and destroy your productivity, or do you dismiss them and damage your working relationship?
You cannot simply say, "Go away, I am busy." That creates lasting interpersonal friction and sounds very rude.
You need a linguistic tool that protects your time while validating their desire to connect. And I actually have a unique tip for our learners on how to handle this politely in English.
Oh, please share. This is a masterclass in polite professional English.
The phrase you need is "in the middle of something."
In the middle of something.
Yes. When they approach your desk, you do not turn your body fully toward them. You keep your hands hovering over your keyboard, you give a warm, apologetic smile, and you say, "I would love to hear about your weekend, but I'm right in the middle of something right now. Can I come find you in about an hour?"
That is brilliant. Let's analyze the mechanics of why that phrase works so well.
It suggests that you are balancing a delicate mental house of cards.
Right. It implies that if you look away, the whole structure will collapse. It frames the work as the immovable object, rather than you simply not wanting to talk.
And by following up with, "Can I come find you in an hour?" Now, you retain control of the interaction. You are offering a concrete alternative.
It reassures the colleague that they are valued, while firmly closing the door on the immediate interruption. It is a highly sophisticated way to enforce a boundary.
Boundary enforcement becomes even more critical as the afternoon wanes and the finish line approaches.
Eventually, the tasks are done or delayed, and you push through the slump, submit the final documents, and the official workday ends.
But the transition from employee back to human being is rarely clean. It sparks the quitting time debate.
The quitting time debate.
Yeah, some people plan their day perfectly to leave exactly at 5:00 p.m. When the clock strikes 5, mid-sentence, they shut their laptop, put on their coat, and leave the building.
It requires immense discipline to be that person. For the vast majority, the reality is staying late.
Staying late. This is a core phrase.
"I have to stay late tonight" means working beyond the socially accepted hours, perhaps until 6:00 or 6:30 p.m., just to finish tasks so you don't carry the anxiety into the next morning.
The emotional state at the end of the day is complex too. You feel physically tired, but mentally there is this sense of being relieved.
Right, relieved that it is over. But the cost of staying late is that when you finally arrive home, your willpower and energy are entirely drained. You aren't just tired, you are exhausted.
Exhausted. Let's really emphasize the pronunciation of exhausted for our listeners, because it is an extreme version of tired.
Yes. EXHAUSTED. The H is silent and the X takes on a voiced G and Z sound. Exhausted.
Exhausted.
Because it already means extremely tired, you cannot say, "I am very exhausted." That is redundant. You must use modifiers like completely, utterly, or absolutely. "I am completely exhausted."
When you are in a state of complete exhaustion, the evening routine devolves into survival mode. You shed your professional attire, you change into comfortable clothes, and you try to cook dinner.
Which could be a nice stir fry, salads, or grilled chicken if you batch cooked.
Or if you didn't, you might just order simple pasta because you're too tired.
And then you attempt to relax. TV, video games, internet browsing, maybe calling family. You try to achieve a state where your life feels manageable.
Manageable is a beautiful word. Let's break down the suffix able.
A suffix is attached to the end of a root word to change its function. The suffix able means able to be.
So manageable literally translates to able to be managed, handled, or controlled successfully.
When a situation is manageable, you feel competent. The antithesis of manageable is overwhelming.
Overwhelming evokes the imagery of a tidal wave crashing over you, burying you under a volume of pressure you cannot survive.
Most evening routines are desperate attempts to regulate the nervous system so that tomorrow feels manageable rather than overwhelming.
Which leads us to a massive point of contention: the struggle of turning off your brain and not thinking about unsolved work problems at home.
Oh, this is a big debate.
Let me ask you this. You are at home, you have eaten dinner, you are in comfortable clothes. Is it acceptable to check your work emails after dinner?
From a psychological standpoint, my answer is a definitive, uncompromising no.
No.
Checking work email at night is a form of self-sabotage. I argue for a strict boundary. If I open the inbox and see an urgent issue, I lack the resources and the mental capacity to solve it at 8:30 p.m. My brain instantly secretes adrenaline. The relaxation is shattered.
I completely disagree with you on this.
Really? You check your email at night?
I do. I argue that sometimes knowing what is coming makes the next day more manageable.
How?
If I refuse to check my email, the unknown becomes a source of dread. My imagination constructs worst-case scenarios. If I spend exactly 3 minutes opening the app, scanning the subject lines, and confirming that there are no active fires burning, my generalized anxiety evaporates.
But what if there is a fire burning?
Even if there is a problem, I prefer the certainty of knowing what it is. My brain can subconsciously process a framework for the solution while I sleep, making the next morning infinitely more manageable.
I think you are conditioning your nervous system to associate the smartphone with both anxiety and relief, essentially turning it into a digital pacifier.
We will have to agree to disagree, but this perfectly illustrates how individualized our coping mechanisms are right up until bedtime.
True. The early bird, desperate to protect their strict 8 hours of sleep, forces themselves into bed by 10:00 p.m.
While the night owl, perhaps overstimulated by late-night emails, remains awake until 11:00 or 11:30, getting maybe 7 hours, and guaranteeing a struggle when the alarm sounds.
And then the digital siren blares again, and the entire cycle restarts. We wake up, we negotiate the commute, we triage the avalanche of emails, we seek the midday reset, we battle the slump, and we retreat home to recover.
This is the universal rhythm of the modern professional.
By understanding the specific English terms we've discussed today, from not a morning person to the strategic use of in the middle of something and the cultural weight of a deadline, you are doing more than just translating words.
You are equipping yourself to participate fluently in the global culture of work. You can articulate your stress, set your boundaries, and connect with international colleagues on a deeply relatable human level.
Having a daily routine makes life feel manageable, and knowing these phrases makes connecting effortless and natural.
And that shared human experience is precisely what we aim to uncover here. We've navigated the entire timeline of the workday.
Now, we want to turn the conversation directly to you, the listener. The most crucial part of language acquisition is application. It is time for our question of the day.
Yes. We want you to reflect on your own routines. What is your favorite part of your workday and why?
Are you someone who finds immense joy in the exact moment you shut down the laptop, feeling the transition back to your personal life?
Or are you perhaps a morning person who actually relishes the quiet, uninterrupted deep work before the rest of the office logs on?
We challenge you to articulate your answer in the comments. Constructing these sentences forces your brain to synthesize the vocabulary.
You could write something like, "My favorite part is afternoon coffee time because stepping away makes the rest of the day manageable." Or, "My favorite part is leaving work because my commute lets me decompress." Writing in the comments is excellent English practice.
We read your responses, and seeing you deploy these concepts is incredibly rewarding.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the daily grind. Remember to check out the next episode to keep learning.
And as a final thought, remember, speaking English is just about being confident and trying your best. You don't have to be perfect, just keep learning and improving every day.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful day, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Goodbye, everyone.